Good day, everyone. I am Mr. Elymar Pascual from Talangan Integrated National High School, Nacarla, Laguna, Philippines. The title of my research is Getting into Learner Space, 100 Teacher-Made Brochures in Gen Math and Stat. As the researcher, I developed teacher-made brochures in two math subjects for grade 11 under the K-12 curriculum of the Philippines, General Mathematics and Statistics and Probability. This study focused on determining the effectivity of using brochures in teaching mathematics. I have here a sample brochure for General Mathematics, which is taken during the first semester of the school year. In front is the title of the lesson, the Learning Competency Code. Inside are Let's Reconnect, which serves as a review. Think of this as motivation. What must we know as the lecturate? Getting into it as fixing skill. At the back are Try This, Digging Deeper, Closure as the reflection for today's lesson, and a quotation from a known personality. I also have here a sample brochure for Statistics and Probability. In front is the title of the lesson, the Learning Competency Code. Inside are Let's Reconnect. Think about this. What must we know? Getting into it. At the back are Try This, Digging Deeper, Closure, and a quotation from Charles Dickens, an English novelist. Abimbade, in the year 2004, have lined up some important benefits of instructional materials. According to him, instructional materials serves as assistance in proper introduction of new skills. Aside from the classroom discussion, lessons from the brochures or instructional materials can serve as aid in knowing new skill or competency. Second, development of learners' understanding. Aside from the explanation of the teacher inside the classroom, instructional materials aid in understanding more the lesson of the day. And third, showing the appropriate way of doing things. Instructional materials can highlight step-by-step procedure of doing things. What I did for this research, for my advisory class, is to divide them into groups. The 27 learners were divided into groups of 9. Group A, on the first week, was the ones who did not receive the brochure. Group B were the ones who received the brochure on the session day. And Group C is the group that receives the brochure before the session day. I gave 3 quizzes for the 3 topics on that week, and the result is shown on this table. The group who received the brochure before the day of the session received the highest mean, while the group who did not receive the brochure gets the lowest mean. On the second week, I changed the setup. Group A was now the one who received the brochure on the session day. Group B received the brochure before the session day, and Group C was the group who did not receive the brochure. I again gave 3 quizzes for the 3 topics we had on that week. The group who received the highest mean was the group who received the brochure before the day of the session. And the group who received the lowest mean was the group who did not receive the brochure, having an interpretation of proficient and developing respectively. On the third week, I again changed the setup. Group A was now the group who received the brochure before the day of the session. Group B did not receive the brochure, and Group C was the one who received the brochure on the session day. I again gave 3 quizzes for the 3 topics we had on that week, and the table shows the result. The highest mean was received by the group who received the brochure before the day of the session, while the lowest mean was received or obtained by the group who did not receive the brochure, having the interpretation of advanced and approaching proficiency respectively. When I put together all the scores for the 3 weeks of those different setups, I found this, and as shown on the table. All the scores of the students who did not receive the brochure for 3 consecutive weeks had a mean of 6.22. All the scores of the students who received the brochure on the session day got 7.01 as the mean, and the scores of those who received the brochure before the day of the session got a mean of 8.13, being the highest mean. Using analysis of variance, I looked into the significant difference of the means. For the first week, I found out that even though the group who received the brochure before the day of the session had the highest mean, the difference is not significant. But for the second week, the difference of the means of the 3 different ways of receiving the brochure turned out to be significant. The same with the third week. The difference of the means were found to be significant. Overall, when the different ways of getting the brochure was put together, the difference was found to be significant at 95% level of confidence. I interviewed learners with regards to their idea of having the brochure, and this is what an accountancy, business and management student said. It made our studies in statistics and probability easier and more convenient. The content of each brochure is full of helpful and important information. I am very thankful that I learned a lot of knowledge from these materials without having regrets. This experience of mine and our math teacher as well, I hope, will inspire other teachers to create brochures too. And it will surely be of great benefit to them. Another student from a different strand, general academic strand, was also interviewed, and she said this: students nowadays, we can say, are some kind of lazy in terms of writing lectures and lessons. Teacher-made brochures are very helpful because students and teachers don't need to write lectures in their notebooks because it is already provided. All the teacher need to do is to take care of the brochures for future use. As 21st century learners, this student wouldn't want always to write lecture but just listen to the teacher, and the teacher-made brochure helped her. When I put together all the response of the students, I was able to see 7 themes. And here are those. Brochures help facilitate in taking down lecture notes, creating focused attention on teaching and learning process, because they don't need to write, more attention is given to the discussion of the teacher. Preparation for classroom discussion, because they receive the brochure beforehand, they can read it at home and be ready for the next day's discussion. Easy comprehension of the lesson because of concise information and direct to the point examples that go with the learner's pace. Since the teacher made the brochure, it goes with their pace as the teacher knows their interests and needs. Fourth, motivation for learning because of logic questions, trivia, math songs presented, and reflection at the end of the brochures. I put some poems, puzzles, and even songs that I wrote so that they would be motivated and have interest in reading the brochure. Fifth, material for enhancement of skill. At the back is the try this and digging the deeper portion which they can solve at home. Serve as review material for future quizzes. Increased academic performance as shown in the result of their quizzes when we had the experiment. I also interviewed math teachers with regards to their ideas about the teacher-made brochures. One teacher said, teacher-made brochures were made for simplicity, mastery, artistically, reliability, and tactically for the learners to be smart, and they will adopt the lesson easily. Because the teacher had summarized the lesson for the students can easily understand the lesson for the day. Another math teacher was interviewed, and this is what she said. It enhances our teaching with simple illustrations that appeal to our learners and teach important points. It is just little, but explains big concepts. Therefore, it serves as concise material that explains difficult things. Teacher-made brochures also serves as visual aids to make important points on instruction more vivid since pictures, diagrams, maps, timelines, or other visual aids highlight important points. Teacher-made brochures are made abridged to highlight those things which are important and take out those things which not necessarily need to be learned on that day. When I put together all the responses of the teachers, there are 5 things that I was able to develop. First theme, facility on teaching because of teacher readiness and focused learners. Because learners receive the brochure beforehand, they can respond to the teacher's instruction and the teaching process became smooth. Smooth classroom discussion because of lecture adaptation to interest and capability of learners. Since the making of the brochure was for the learners and it fits their needs and interests, the teacher-made brochure makes the classroom discussion smooth. Third, reduction of stress because of learners' active participation. Since the learners have read the brochure at home, they are ready to respond to teachers' questions and probably ready to ask questions too. Clarity of lecture producing teacher fulfillment. There's nothing more fulfilling when the learners are able to increase knowledge as we meet them every day. Contingency material for teachers' unavailability. There are times we need to attend to other things and therefore we need to leave the class, and because they have the materials, they can continue studying the materials given to them and thereby learn the lesson for the day. Before I end my presentation, I would like to share what Helen Keller said. The most pathetic person in the world is someone who has sight but no vision. Let us continue to have a vision for all learners that they would have the utmost on our teaching. Let's continue to do instructional materials that would give them aid in achieving more. And more so, let's continue to explore on research as we learn also from our environment. Remember that we touch the future when we teach. Once again, this is Mr. Elymar A. Pascual from Talangan Integrated National High School, Nagcarlan, Laguna, Philippines. God bless and thank you for listening.